Next, we have our 6.5, consideration of presentation on phases 1 and 2 of the Climate Health Adaptation and Resilience Mobilization, CHARM, Lake County Program. And Terry, I think you were leading this as well. Trevor. I want to hand that to Trevor.
You wait in California. Good morning, Board. Again, Terry Logston, Chief Climate Resiliency Officer. I'm here today to present the team from Tracking California and Sarah Ryan from the Big Valley Band of Pomo Indians on the CHARM Lake County collaborative project. It is a partnership with the Center for Disease Control's National Environmental Public Health Tracking Program, the Climate Health Adaptation and Resilience Mobilization, or CHARM Lake County Program, has recently completed phase 1 of its work to support resilience and safety in natural disasters. And today they're going to talk about some of the results from phase 1 and give a presentation and talk about what's next for phase 2. So I will turn it over and let you all introduce yourselves. You have to speak directly into the mic.
Thank you. Thank you so much to the board for making time for us today to give this presentation. I'm Susan Poliukonis. I'm with Tracking California, part of the leadership team of this project.
Hi everyone, my name is Scarlett Sands Bliss. I'm a research data analyst with Tracking California and part of the CHARM team.
Hi, and I'm Michelle Wong. I'm also part of the leadership team on the CHARM project.
And we're also joined by Terry, who will be joining us as part of the leadership for phase 2, and Sarah, who has been an absolutely vital partner through all the phases and other projects as well. So, okay, we'll jump into it. Here's what we're going to touch on, a little bit of the history about...
Sorry, just real quick, Sarah, did you want to come up and join up top? We can get a chair. Okay, all right, just making sure because you were announced as one of the folks, so sorry for the interruption.
Thank you, I appreciate that, and we will be calling on Sarah for questions that come up. Right. So we'll give you a little bit of the history about the project, and then we'll really be focusing today on what we've learned and some of the recommendations that we can offer the county and the board, and then a brief preview of where we're going. We have new funding for the next 4 years. And we've done the introductions, I think, for everybody except Alicia from Big Valley, and we really appreciate her service on this project as well. So what is this thing? It is now called Community Health Adaptation and Resilience Mobilization, Lake County. So same acronym, but for funding reasons, we decided to make a couple of changes in language. This project it finished up in May, was a 2-year, essentially a planning grant funded by the National Institutes of Health. And we started this during the COVID era, which was interesting and exciting and did a lot of things remotely. As we mentioned, it's been a true partnership between Tracking California at the Public Health Institute and Big Valley. Absolutely could not do any of this work without that partnership, and we so appreciate it. And the goals were first and foremost to bring together as many different people who work with, in particular, at-risk communities in Lake County around issues of climate resilience. So bring all those folks together and have a forum where regular cross-communication and collaboration could happen. And we'll show you who we were able to bring to the table for that in a moment. And then we really wanted to focus on issues of extreme heat and harmful algal blooms, which we know are a significant problem in Lake County and climate-driven. And then take everything that we could learn during these 2 years, and we did a lot of deep diving into collecting data and learning from people to develop a plan. And Scarlett will be presenting the findings and the roadmap that came out of all this work. So these are the different agencies and organizations, tribes, municipalities that were a part of the working group. And we just cannot say enough how much we appreciate these people. Almost every one of them took time out of their professional life to do this. A few folks had some compensation and were outside of professional time, but most people, and I know everyone in these agencies, is incredibly busy and stressed, and so very appreciative for their time. Next slide. And here's what we got from our efforts. So we did a public survey, and it was a very lengthy survey. I think we estimated that it took most people about 45 minutes to fill out. So we were thrilled that we got over 200 responses that were clearly from Clear Lake. It was a public survey, so we got some folks who were, who were out of town, but we got this number of people who clearly lived here, had awareness of the various issues, and gave us so much information about their experiences, their challenges, and all things heat and harmful algal bloom. And then we did a deeper dive with the most at-risk communities. We did one-on-one interviews that typically lasted about an hour. We'll show some of the communities that we worked with on the next slide, but they were very free form, and we just asked people about their experiences with these kinds of events and heard many, many stories from them. And we have a lot of snippets from those stories to share in the roadmap that Scarlett will be sharing. We had 13 working group meetings, and we really endeavored to have these be bi-directional experiences, so that we were hearing a lot from all those folks who were on the working group, but we also wanted to contribute to their work, help support what they were doing. So one of the first things that we did as a part of the project was to collect as many different, we just call them resources, but they were other programs, state-led programs. I know we connected some folks with granting programs in the state. Some of the tribes have been able to leverage those, but programs that were similar in other states, federal programs, all kinds of things, and then lots of data sources. And we compiled all that and shared that with the working group. And those resources are also available to anyone in the county who wants to leverage them. They are a part of what Scarlett will be sharing with you. And I don't think it will come as a surprise to folks here that there were many at-risk groups that we identified, and of course, full acknowledgement that many people fall into more than one of these groups, which makes the challenges and the barriers to resilience all the greater. But these are the groups that we identified and that we focus on in the roadmap. And Scarlett is going to take over and show you what we found.
All right, thanks you all. I'm going to switch over to our web-based view really briefly. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know. What was that? Switching screens. So one of the first things that I said as we've shared the roadmap more publicly is, as we're thinking about an action plan or a way to summarize everything we learned from communities over the past 2 years, we started really hearing from our working group and other folks involved that what would be much more useful to them is a really digestible, navigable, and easy to use website rather than a PDF report that came out of these first 2 years. And so the roadmap is a website. We also can continue updating it. We can add resources as folks submit them to share them with us. And that's the goal. It's meant to be usable. It's a distillation of all of the work that we've done over the past 2 years and what we've learned from communities through the different events that we held over the past 2 years. And importantly, it's not a new plan. I think it's really meant to be a tool to supplement the work that the county is already doing, and all of the partners that we had through the first 2 years have been doing, and to create some other additional testimonies and data and evidence that all of these directions to support resources that support folks' resilience during heat waves, power shutoffs, harmful algal blooms. So this is the home page here. Let's see. And now we've got Wi-Fi. And we organized it, again, based on a lot of feedback from our working group, in 3 different kind of ways of being able to search through the information. You can look by natural hazard or climate-driven event. You can look into information by vulnerable community, and then by the strategies that were kind of brought together from all that information. More information about the project is in this About the Roadmap page. A lot of it is linkable, and we hope it's, cite it, use it in any way that is helpful to your work. And then we also have a lot of information about kind of all of that asset mapping, formulation of the working group, and then this data collection effort. The interviews that we did were done all in partnership with Big Valley, Sarah, Alicia at Big Valley EPA, along with Michelle and I and a couple other, and Susan. Many of us did interviews with folks, and we're just really grateful for the amount of time that folks were willing to, and stories that they were willing to share with us all across the county. So an example of a page organized by natural hazards could be extreme heat. Each one will give a little bit of a background on the challenge at large, and then specific populations that might be at higher risk to extreme heat. This is something that we all already know, right? And then a bit about specific data of extreme heat in Lake County. And then where it gets exciting is kind of these highlights from the surveys and interviews. And during this process, we were able to include questions, like this is very small, but when you get a chance to go look at it, questions that our partners wanted the answers to, and people in the working group were really interested in to work with their projects. So one of them was, we work closely with the COAD, Community Organizations Active in Disaster, and Tammy and Pastor Shannon. They were really interested in understanding how far away a cooling center or a resilience hub would be if for someone to still be interested in using it. So we present a lot of that data throughout the roadmap. And then on every page will be people's stories. And so I really encourage, as you're curious, and if testimony is important to a grant application or the work that you're doing, to take time looking through all of these quotes. This is a brief snapshot of the, over 60 hours of interviews that we have from folks. And we're also really happy to continue sharing kind of the results from these surveys and interviews as it's helpful on a, case-by-case basis with folks. You can also search by vulnerable communities in Lake County. An example here might be people experiencing homelessness. We worked closely with county behavioral health peer support centers to do a range of interviews during the first phase. And then, we highlight groups that work with that county, that population in the county, and then more community voices. And then finally, I'll just highlight the strategies. So this is where we collect kind of everything that we heard from people into specific strategies that are already being undertaken in the county through so many different efforts, but can be underscored by what we heard from the community. And Susan's going to talk about these a little bit more in a minute. And then the last thing that I'll point you to is this resources page, a place that can be continuously added to. This includes that link to the inventory of all of the anything climate, health, and extreme heat, harmful algal blooms related kind of database that we built up over the 2 years and share with the working group, as well as a lot of county, state tools and hazard mitigation plans and offices, links to different resources. So I'll stop that share now.
Thank you. And as we move into talking about the strategies and a few recommendations that are oriented towards a county level, I just really want to but just acknowledge and appreciate how much is already going on. I think that was one of the most interesting parts of this for us, is seeing how many different agencies, entities, NGOs were already working in this space and learning so much from them. And all the more easy to then look at where there are still some gaps. So if you want to advance. So we did break this into 6 strategies. I just pulled out a couple of strategies that are particularly relevant to the county for each of these. And I'm not going to go into a deep dive. I think if you want to just advance. A lot about resilience centers. I know the county is working on resilience centers. COAD is working. Tribes have resilience centers. We have a lot of recommendations there. And a lot of phase 2 of this project will be focused on resilience centers as well. So we see a lot of space there. A lot about transportation. We talked about this with the Risk Reduction Authority yesterday, and I think there's a lot of ways that transportation could be improved in emergencies, and we have some ideas that are in the roadmap. Communication and coordination, I mean, it's just really what we're here to talk about, is keeping these most vulnerable and at-risk communities in mind during the planning. And training, always essential. Really a lot, we heard so much about trust in the at-risk communities and needing to have already built up that trust before the need for action is there. And then finally, data and monitoring. And one of the things we just wanted to call out, because we know what's on the agenda, is around cyanobacteria and, making sure that meetings and conversations and communications are still happening around that. And the very important monitoring work that Big Valley is doing, I think is really vital, and a lot of people really rely on that. And just talking really briefly about phase 2, and then we'll wrap up. We have been awarded a 4-year continuation grant by NIH. This is an intervention study, so it's a complex what we're doing. We're not just kind of coming in free form working with different communities, but very set systems that we have to do in order to evaluate the intervention. But we're very excited about it. We're going to be working with a lot of different resilience centers that you can see on the right there, and focusing on 4 of those most at-risk groups: seniors, unhoused individuals, tribal members, and outdoor workers. And we hope to be working with even more folks in the county and as we go along and learn more during this process.
And one last thing I would say about this is kind of what we learned from phase 1 is our big goals here are not to reinvent the wheel, but to work with these existing trusted spaces that already de facto serve as resilient centers, or communities, unhoused folks, tribal members, seniors, and outdoor workers are already going to for support during heat waves and these different events. And then also to connect them with resources that already exist. So making sure everyone has access to lake co-alerts, and making sure everyone has an emergency plan for when, a wildfire might happen. So kind of really continuing to connect to existing resources is the goal.
And just a huge appreciation for everyone who worked with us. You can see many of the different events and gatherings that we had, and some of the materials that were developed. And I think that's it. And these are our contact information if you'd like to follow up with us. And that is we changed some of the slides, so the distribution will look a little bit different. And then we just put this back up here if there are questions about any of that. And thank you so much for your time.
All right.
Thank you.
Sarah, did you want to add anything, please?
Thank you, Sarah Ryan, Big Valley Band of Pomo Indians. This has been a great project because it's an opportunity. It's been an opportunity to really dive deep into our most vulnerable communities in Lake County. I certainly remember, I'm sure a lot of people do, that during the PSPSs, not having any power, and some of those days were quite hot, or, you were just in the elements, and what do you do during those emergencies? This project is to help create those backstops, and it was very interesting to actually check in with all of our working group members to see, what are your policies, what are your plans, your programs to deal with extreme heat when it happens. And so we're all learning and growing with this together, and we've been able to, not only hear from the people who are affected, and, actually during a tabletop exercise where we were pretending, just kind of like, oh, this disaster will happen, and this disaster. So the cyanobacterial bloom, the toxins will be so bad, there's danger levels everywhere, and then there'll be a fire, and then there'll be an evacuation, and then this extreme heat wave. It actually happened like the month after, so the guy who set up all of the, potential things. So, we really are dealing with this, and it's fantastic to be working together with the county and all the other folks that are part of the working group to make sure that people aren't suffering as much, during these extreme heat events. And that was the goal of it, is just how do we limit that suffering and get people to resources. So yeah, just wanted to, I'm glad we got the funding, and Tracking California has been just an amazing partner leading this charge and working with us. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Supervisor Sabatier?
I appreciate the report and apologize that I have a negative that I want to share. I don't like the way it's worded in the who is at risk in Lake County, that it says exposure to Clear Lake. If it said exposure to HABs, I would completely understand, because that is an absolute risk, but just generalizing it to the exposure of Clear Lake is not a healthy way to describe the lake throughout the year, throughout even our summer. And I think it's a little too broad and places a very negative connotation about our lake and how people should, we have signage, there's times where we have to put out press releases, and we have a very good process. In fact, we'll be talking about that a little bit later today. But the fact that it says in a public document, exposure to Clear Lake is a risk, does not make me happy for how we're conveying that message to the outside. And I wish that we could change that to just exposure to HABs, because HABs can occur in other bodies of water.
I thank you so much for raising that, and I think that's an easy one. I think we just fixed that, so I appreciate that.
Thank you. We do have our issues when it comes to climate change and the experiences that we unfortunately have had and will continue to have. So I appreciate this report, and thank you for taking my comment in a positive way.
And if I may add,
Yes.
this is like Scarlett said, it's a living document, and we know that as we compiled the feedback that we got and the data, we're framing it from our perspective. The working group has had a chance to review, but we know folks are busy. So we do expect and hope that as you look at this and see that something might be framed in a way that is not productive or maybe is not accurate, that please do let us know. We're really happy to change it. Nothing here is for us. I think it's really here to support the work that's happening in the county and other the tribes and the NGOs. So just welcome that, and we will be adding a link to a feedback form, and our contact information is there as well. So if anybody sees something that is inaccurate or has a recommendation on framing, we really welcome that.
Thank you for that. Any other comments from the board? Did you want to add something before I open it to the public, Terry?
I just wanted to add that I think that it is, as you know, as we write grants, of our different departments, it's a lot of times very hard to get Lake County specific data, and this is that opportunity. And so I'm really thankful for the phase 1 and to continue in phase 2 so that we have actual things to use to justify the work and to request funding. So thanks.
Awesome. If there's anyone from the public that would like to comment, please come on up, or if you're on Zoom, Betsy, if you would unmute.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to Scarlett and Sarah and everybody that's been involved in this. It is every bit of what they have explained. It's a very important project and very helpful. I just have one concern. We keep saying harmful algal blooms, when in fact we have a lot of problems promoting the county, as Bruno said. The exposure to Clear Lake conveys a risk that really is not proportionate to the problem. My concern is that we keep saying algal, and because algae is necessary and important to the food web. For the most part, with the very rare exceptions, it's not a harmful living thing. What is harmful is cyanobacteria. This is my personal campaign. I've been asking people for the last 20 years, basically, to stop saying harmful algal blooms because it's confusing for the public. And how you could deal with that, I'm not sure. I mean, if you could say harmful bacterial blooms, that would be more specific and clearer, even if it's a couple of more syllables. But I really want to put that into your thinking about how we, deal with this problem that we have on the economic development side, where the folks that are trying to solve these problems are talking about how bad it is for our economy. But I think that the public needs to understand the difference, and if we could promote that, I think it would be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Betsy. Yes, please.
Betsy, thank you so much. It's wonderful to hear your voice, and I appreciate that comment a lot. I will say that we have just kind of traditionally rolled along with what the CDC calls them, and I think you raise a lot of good points, and we'll have an internal discussion. I don't want to speak for everyone or make a decision on the fly, but I think that what you're saying makes a lot of sense.
Any other public comment on Zoom? All right, so I'll bring it back to the board. If there's nothing further, I think this is a presentation. So, yep, thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you for coming and giving us the insight. Sarah, thank you as well. And we're looking forward to what's next, phase 2, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.